here on a lovely evening. Namaste. It means that you and I are enabled by the same spirit. That is, the spirit enlivening in me is the same spirit which is enlivened in you also. Means that you and I are one and the same. That is spirituality. This is oneness, and it is said in the universal prayer, or in the first object of the Theosophical Society says that universal brotherhood, which universal brotherhood without the distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, and color. That's the first object of the Theosophical Society. The second object is to study the latent power hidden in men and women, and also study comparative religions. These are the three objects of the society. The Theosophical Society was founded in the year 1875 by two stalwarts, Henry Steele Olcott and Blavatsky in New York. In 1883, they moved to Chennai, and since then this has been the headquarters. So spirituality is oneness. So what is theosophy? Theosophy is the synthesis of spirituality, science, and religion. Today, Mr. Anoop Jaiswal is here. He is going to talk about science. Science says, you prove it and I'll believe it. Spirituality says, you disprove it and I'll believe it. So this is the essence, and Mr. Anoop Jaiswal is going to throw more light about this particular subject today. About wisdom for living series of programs. This is the brainchild of Mr. Tim Boyd, who is the 8th president of the Theosophical Society. And he has been here since 2014, and this is the second term he is serving, and 7 years is the term for each term. It is lasting for about 7 years. This is the second term he is serving here as the president. And this is his brainchild, Wisdom for Living series of programs, wherein we know that wisdom, there is only one wisdom, which is to say that Aham Brahmasmi, that is, I am God in disguise, and you are also God in disguise. To know that is final wisdom, but yet again, we live in this world of plurality. We don't know about all those things. That is very high wisdom. So in this world of plurality, in this world of sense objects and something, all those material objects, we have to be in the world of objects so that we have other things also to take into account. So that puts in so many aspects in terms of wisdom. That is, we have spoken about spiritual filters for effective communication, about osteoporosis, and then astrology, fitness, and then Feng Shui, Vastu Shastra. And there are so many talks on so many aspects of life. So wisdom covers everything. So this, for today's program, Mr. Anoop Jaiswal, IPS, who retired as Director General of Police of Tamil Nadu, he has come here to give a talk. Mr. Anoop Jaiswal is a physics graduate from, he's from Gorakhpur, from UP, and he studied there in Sainik School, and then he did his MSc Physics. He wanted to become a professor of physics, but unfortunately, turn of events took him into police department, and he became a police. And he retired as a DG, the highest level. He has served under 4 prime ministers. He has been with Nelson Mandela. He has been to Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, everything. And finally, he is here in the Theosophical Society. He heads the department of, that is the science, Theosophy Science. He is the head of Theosophic Science. So today he's going to come and talk about Theosophy and Theosophic Science. Let us welcome Mr. Anoop Jaiswal.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much, Mr. Ramkumar. I do not know where to thank him for all the introduction or add something to it, because the moment you introduce me as a policeman, the first question arises in everybody's mind: what the hell you are talking about science, and a policeman talking about science and spirituality and all that is definitely some sort of a contradiction in terms. And that I also realize it. And So before I get into it, this topic which I am talking about, science and pseudoscience. What is science? All of you, many of people when I talk about, ask them, no, sir, that is not my subject. I have been in the field of arts and I am in the economics. I studied long back, I have totally forgotten it. These are the topics. So I thought when I'm talking to people, we'll talk something which is utterly trivial and simple. Because the foundation of knowledge, surprisingly to me, is based on trivialities. And I'll demonstrate. I'm not only to speak all the time, I've got something to demonstrate also. And the first demonstration is a small candle burning there. It can signify so many things to so many people. I have brought it for mundane reason. It is not that lead me from darkness to light and all those big things I do not know. I try to delve in what Mr. Ramkumar so confidently talked about, spiritual matters, and I'm very shy of it. I couldn't understand a word of it. So what exactly I'm going to talk? I was studying, where do you all learn your first science? I'm asking the first thing about anything about science, where did you learn it first? I think everybody picked up in his classroom. Like my parents who were educated, unlike my parents who had nothing to do with education, well, they had practical education, they were farmers and all that, but in the typical sense of reading something about air and light and Newton's law, and these are never unheard. But it started only in our textbook, like my grandchildren are doing now. And when I call my granddaughter, come, I'll tell you something about science. It's so boring. Enough of science in the school, and here is a grandfather who again wants me to come and study science. So that is a sort of an image we have. Then there's the other end of science. Enamored with science, the world is progressing so fast, despite the knowledge that a half of the world goes without food, or sufficient food, hungry in the night. In India, I was reading somewhere, maybe wrong or right statistics, I do know, nearly 400 million people, roughly, sleep every night hungry. Well, that is progress. We have definitely made it. Okay. So there are so many aspects of it, which, so I will tell how I came into science and how I got disenchanted with science. Then I tried to enter the field of what Ramkumar was talking about spiritual matters, and how disenchanted I became with that, and utterly standing before this totally confused person. Neither here nor there. Both have betrayed me. I remember I was studying he mentioned Sainik school. India has got a set of schools called Sainik, military schools. I landed there not by choice. How I landed, there's a different story, but I was just picked up and brought there. And because the education was free, food was free, clothes were free, my parents were just too happy to put me there. Because the economic burden of one child going to such a place it comes down. And there we were taught only one thing. As you are taught in Theosophical Society about spiritual matters, in Sainik school you are taught only one thing. You may think about anything, you can dream about anything, but nirvana lies only in becoming an army officer or Air Force officer. That was what was filled in us right from the beginning. The only job worth doing in the world is, as a child we are brainwashed, that to pick up arms, bear arms in defense of your nation, all those high-sounding words. And we were all enamored. You may be good in mathematics, you may be good but teachers told whatever you may study, but ultimate aim is that you should be able to pass this exam called National Defense Academy. I don't know how many people have heard it, NDA, Khadagwasla. And that was the place which was ultimate salvation lied as you walk into the threshold of NDA. And we all were part of it. Then something very surprising happened. I had a teacher who came from volunteer service organization from Britain, David Kirkland. Because there they have this volunteer service, a sort of social service, people who come to a particular age and education, they said, oh, 2 years you go to some underdeveloped countries and teach science there. So he was a graduate only, not knowing much science as far as I can think now. But he came over India, but he had one great advantage. He was a white man. And that time, now it has come down, we Browns have also become far better. But initially in 60s, so a white man coming and teaching was the ultimate knowledge, especially in the field of science. Because the modern science, as we say, came from the Western countries. So he came, he used to teach in the class, and sometimes he will answer. And one day while teaching, he asked a question. I must be in 8th standard or 9th standard. I answered it. Again he asked some more tricky. Luckily I was able to answer that also. So he remarked, I have taught in England, I have taught in France, but I have not seen a brain like Anoop Jaiswal. Now this is a teacher's way of encouraging, but it became a deep poison for me. It poisoned me. I started dreaming myself as a great scientist becoming one day. He put that dream in you as a child. And I paid very heavy penalty for it. So when the time came to get into NDA, to read the exam, I wanted to never get into NDA. But sometimes it's very difficult to fail in an exam. Because I was very good in mathematics. However, I neglected my studies of NDA. When I went and gave the exam, I passed. I went for the interview, they selected me. And I joined the National Defense Academy to become a fighter pilot. Long back. But when I reached there, somehow it felt it is now or never. My dream of becoming a scientist is going to be smashed. And every night I used to have a nightmare sort of a feeling. If you don't decide now, and my parents were very happy, coming from a poor family, the child is going to become a class 1 gazetted officer. That itself was a very big thing because I could sign on mark sheets and all those are certificate issuing authority you become. It's such a big thing to be issuing a certificate to anyone. And so it was some sort of my age must be 16, a turmoil started in the night. And to cut the long story short, I decided to quit. Against the wishes of my teachers, parents, I decided to quit and quit. They said, you can't quit because your father has signed this bond or that bond unless he gives. Okay, if you don't allow me to quit, I'll run away. Now, Army found it difficult to deal with such a person because runaway was more dangerous for them. So I was allowed to go and I joined Delhi University to do physics. I was very happy, enthusiastic. I was hailed as a very brilliant student. I did my graduation post. In the post-graduation, I took very esoteric subjects to study. My specialization was general theory of relativity and quantum electrodynamics. Half of you people not to have heard these lines. I have yet to meet another person anywhere in IIT Madras, Delhi University Madras, who is an expert on general theory of relativity. It is something which Einstein did but meaningless because it has no application. He talks about universe and how it created. And there is another field called quantum electrodynamics. Anybody heard this name? You would not have heard it. And then came the crisis. You study, you write formulas, you get good marks, not a word you understood. It was as if you are chanting a mantra, as many people chant a mantra, without knowing a word of the meaning, what it means. And you ask them, what is that? Sir, this is a mantra from the Rig Veda. But what does it mean? That is besides the point. It means something good only. That was the level of science, and I started getting disenchanted with it, didn't know what to do, where to go about it. And in that turmoil, with the pressure of parents, I landed in police. Anyway, that is beside. Now coming to the main topic, what exactly? But my passion for science never died down. Whenever I used to get little time, I used to try to read quantum mechanics. Have you heard the name of quantum mechanics, anybody? How many of you have any idea on quantum mechanics or understood anything about quantum mechanics? Because one of the greatest physicists of so-called the world, Feynman, Richard Feynman. His famous quotation is, if there is anyone who claims to have understood quantum mechanics, one thing is sure, he has not understood it. That is a very, very famous line of why I wanted to show something. But before that, I'll come what constitutes science. What is science? Basically, from every man or woman or whatever way you, when we live, we come across problems. Individual problems or problems at large faced by the society where we are living in. And we try to find solutions to the problem. Empirical methods of solution, hit and trial, these are all scientific methods. Hit and trial, you try something. And some of the areas which really fascinated from ancient times till modern times, one was the stars above you, because every night you saw something, a huge canopy of brilliant light which vanished in the day, and they kept on rotating in one way or other way without knowing what are they. They had no direct impact. If you imagine they are gods and goddesses, angels, whatever. But that was one of the most fascinating. Other fascinating area was fire. It was again a very, very strange thing, of fire. It can be a small thing, suddenly it will engulf everything. You cannot control it. When it is not there, producing it was difficult. When it is there, it is controlling it was difficult. And lot of experiments. So I'll start and then explain why I brought this whole topic. The first experiment which was done in a very, very scientific way on fire was on record. Maybe before Pilmi also many people would have done the experiment. But on record, was done by a Greek engineer and scientist. Earlier in that period in Greece or even India, we didn't have separate physicists, chemists. They were all natural philosophers. It was philosophy which uncovered both certain amount of spiritual work, as we call it today, certain amount of scientific work, certain guessworks. Everything was a part of that. And experiments were also of two kinds. One was actually which you do an experiment with the physical objects. Other is what in a German term for the Gedanke experiment, thought experiment. For example, Democritus, who gave this concept of atom, he made a thought experiment. If I have a piece of wood, if I break into two, what are the two things? Wood. Again I break it, again two pieces of wood. How long can I keep breaking? And he thought, you can imagine somebody breaking the wood continuously. And then he got tired of breaking. And he says, ultimately we'll reach a piece which cannot be broken further because then the wood will be lost. That is the atom of wood. Nobody did that experiment. But logically it made sense. And that is where the word atom even today gets carried away. But today atom means something else. It is not the ultimate matter. What Democritus thought atom, we may in a rough way call it a molecule today. But those are things apart. So the Pilmi did one of the best experiments, thought experiment, real experiment, with fire. That time, I don't know why in India or in Greece, we all believe roughly that the world is made out of 4 or 5 elements. In Greece, they believed, where the Western science came from, earth, fire, water, and air. But when they said fire or water, they didn't mean ordinary water. It was an essence of water. For example, air did not mean this air alone. Air is a mixture of water, because if you keep a cold something, you see water sticking out, which has come from the air. So it was more of an essence, not something. Nothing pure is found in. A wood is made out earth material, air material, and a very simple equation. You burn wood, smoke goes, the air goes out, the fire goes out, and the earth material is left as ash. Very logical. So Pilmi was doing this experiment because one problem they faced that time, when you light a candle, which will become one of the source of lighting, you can't carry it outside. So they tried to cover it. And the moment they covered, some problems used to occur. And they were not able to understand, why doesn't the candle burn? You see, when it is covered. It is a very huge issue though, because what is burning is a candle. You might be thinking this is all very stupid. Do we know why it is burning? Now just put yourself, men were, women were the same brain. Nothing has changed. You take a rabbit out of a hat, it looks fantastic. You know the trick? It's trivial. So many things are very trivial today which fascinated mankind, and today I'm going to show and it will fascinate you for a while. You put a candle, you put some colored water, and although you studied science or not satisfied, just pay a bit of heat to it. Very simple experiment. I can be heard. There's nothing much. So I put some colored water here. And as they say in science, the most important thing is observation. But without knowing what to observe. But a candle burning, this is the experiment conducted exactly 2,500 years back. It's a very, very famous experiment, and you will realize why. Looks very trivial. So I take a flask and gently lower it without disturbing. And you see the candle keeps burning for a while. Keep watching. The candle keeps burning. Using the oxygen source. No, very, very interesting thing will happen. Now what you see, the candle is gone away. But a very strange thing has happened. The water, the colored thing has come into it. Pilme gave a very simple explanation. That is, air is constitutes of fire element, air element, water element, and earth element. Everything is a mixture. The candle, when it's burning, the fire element available in the air goes out, which you see as fire. And when it is all goes out, the emptiness created by going away of the fire element from the air is filled up by the water. What is the answer today? Anybody will try? Why did the water rise? No, I want you to try it out.
Principally, the oxygen got used by the flame. So in that space, the water goes up because there's a
But it's a
vacuum.
very, very strange answer. This. I tell you why. It's so trivial and yet we don't get the right answer. Here is a candle burning. You say the O2 gets consumed. Correct? But every O2 which is consumed by the candle gives given back as a CO2. Molecule by molecule. O2, CO2. O2, CO2. You see, anybody else will try to try. Why did the candle go out?
CO2 doesn't support combustion.
No, it doesn't support, but it is there. In place of O2, CO2 has come. So where is the vacuum created?
So you cannot allow the flame to
No, flame will go out. But why did the water rise?
rising.
It's a child's experiment. You search in the YouTube. Anybody having it? You may get a good answer.
Can I guess, sir?
Please, allow.
Something to do with the ionization and the oxygen molecule in the water wants to come and neutralize.
We are all why you do much ionization, nothing wrong, please.
நானும் ஒரு கணிப்பில் தான் சொல்கிறேன்.
சொல்லுங்க.
அங்கே முன்னாடி கார்பன் இந்த அளவுக்கு அடர்த்தியாக இல்லை. இப்போது கார்பன் அங்கே கிரியேட் ஆகிடுச்சு. அதாவது ஏர் நார்மல் ஆக்சிஜனோட கார்பன் ஜாஸ்தியாக ஆரம்பிச்சு இருக்கிற ஸ்பேஸ் வந்து கம்மியாக வைக்கணும்.
But this is you are doing out of study or guess?
Guess. You started saying guess.
Guess. So when you are guessing, you have to have more deep in the sense. It should be more thoughtful guess.
Yeah.
This experiment was repeated again by Heron, another Greek scientist after 200 years. He came to the same conclusion. Oh, well, wonderful. There are 4 elements, one going out. Then came 16 centuries of gap. And came another scientist by name who is really famous, the world famous scientist who really brought modern science was Galileo. he was very observant. And his observation, I can't repeat it. I can repeat it, but the time will run out. If time permits, I'll repeat that also. Galileo again did this experiment. But his power of observation was different. He says when you start the experiment, water is there. When you end the experiment, water has, when the flame goes out. But he found till the candle was burning, the water was not rising. Only when the candle went out, the water started rising. See, difference of observation. One is observing the beginning and the end. No water, water. And here is a person, he says, oh, beginning and end, okay. But see the process also. If actually it is because of the loss of the fire element is being lost continuously. So water should be rising continuously. But water is not rising continuously. And he made another guess. He says maybe, and he made an instrument of it. When a candle is burning, we often see the candle, we often see the flame. But we don't see above the flame. It's very hot, so it's a very hot air above it, which we don't see. So we take it for granted. The air here and the air here are the same. See, again power of observation. But actually, here the air is thick. Here the air is thin, which we can't see, only here. So when we cover it, while we are covering it, we are covering a lot of thin air, hot air, which is getting covered into it. And because it's a hot air, he also found that when you are covering it, sometimes bubbling is taking place. The air is expanding because of it. So till the candle is burning, air is being pushed out, expanding. Once the candle goes out, the air starts cooling. So he called it a thermoscope effect. And he made out of this study the first instrument which today is called thermometer. It's a very simple instrument he made. He take a glass bulb, put a long tube, hold it in your hand for a while and dip it. Your hand will heat it. When you remove the hand, it cools a column of air. Imagine, and that thermometer started using, because Galileo himself was a doctor, he started using for measuring body temperatures. Not very accurate, but could tell high fever, low fever, normal. And that is all is required, is exactly 103.4, 102, that is modern. Normally we treat a person by basically on a rough manner. So see what small thing leads to what. But the chemists won't agree. For them, 4 elements were important. Another 200 years passed. It was Lavoisier who did this experiment again. And he says, I'll do the experiment in a manner which is called closed volume system. Everything is in a closed volume. Nothing can escape, nothing can go out. Something expands, water column will show it for a while, contracts, water column will come this side. And he found in a closed volume system, before burning and after burning, the volume remains the same. But the quality of air has changed. Initially, the air which was there supported combustion, burning of the candle. Subsequently, it doesn't. But nobody knew about oxygen or carbon dioxide. This is the scientific process of observation, theorizing. But what Galileo said was right. What Lavoisier said was right. Then what happened actually? And if you go in many textbooks on YouTube, people are stuck at the level of pill me only. Lot of textbook, even when I go to school to teach children, the teachers will say, but our textbook says it is because of the consumption of oxygen. Ma'am, you are not wrong, because this is what Pilmi said, and your textbook was written probably by someone who had not taken the other things. And once it is written down, why bother? That student has to learn that answer and answer get marks. Oh, well over. Why bother what is causing burning and what is not causing burning? If he gets good marks, he gets a good job, he makes a good life. Where is this cranky idea in your head that we should know the truth? Why should some people become cranky to find out the truth? If truth doesn't give you money, if it doesn't give you comfort, and sometimes it causes you a lot of pain. Buddha was supposed to be a king and a prince. He got a cranky idea in his head. No, I'll leave everything, I'll fast unto death, and go on. But this is some madness which catches on certain mind. But normal people are not bothered whether it is because of this it is rising or that it is rising. Let it rise, what it has to do. So that is a typical area. Science basically, then I started learning where, and I will show you how science has become again as nutty as spirituality. So suddenly there was Galileo, Newton, and the material world started getting explained. Newton gave a law of gravity. Anybody knows that law of gravity? Must have heard the word gravity. It is very simple law. Everybody attracts everybody. Could Newton prove it in his classroom, in his trial? Because no. On the earth you cannot prove it. You can take any amount of boulder or thing, you can't measure the attraction. But he gave an hypothesis. And he gave a formula also. And the formula was so good that it predicted the motions of the planet. But what did Newton himself feel after giving the formula, after celebrating the success? I'd like to read out his statement. I've written it down, but I thought it's worth listening. And for everybody who wants to understand science, this statement of Newton is very, very important. I'm not sure what the time, sir.
A lot of time is there.
Kindly listen to it. I translate to the very simple thing is it that gravity should be innate and innate, inherent and essential to matter. Gravity is innate, inherent and essential to matter, so that one body without any mediation, the sun is there, millions of miles away earth is there, in between what is there? Absolute space. Empty space. Without mediation of anything, no chain or rod to push or pull. Without any mediation of anything else is to me such great an absurdity. Is Newton saying, is to me such a great an absurdity that I believe no reasonable man should accept it. He finds a law himself which works. And yet says, when I critically examine the law, it works, that's okay. But any reasonable man should not accept it. There is something funny about it. It is like an occult phenomena. Suppose I say, I can move the chair by looking at the chair. What will you say? Hey, Baidyam, what is Tamil will say? Something, you're a loser. How can you move a chair without touching it? The same question is, without touching, without going near, the sun is millions of miles away. How does it move the earth? No reasonable person should accept it. But my formula gives the result. And there is another example of it. Before Newton, there was another very, very famous Greek astronomer called Ptolemy. Ptolemy tried to explain all the movements of planets by very strange method. He says, center, Earth, and everything is going around it, planets, sun, moon, all. And to explain various places, these planets, and they have their own circles, they have their own circles. So he'll collect data and fit it in a manner, and finally when the final product came, it was so brilliant. Things are moving in a circle, within the circle, smaller circles, bigger circles, without knowing the reason why should a person keep moving like this and then make a small circle and then make, just to fit in the data. But he fitted it so well That even 1,000 years later, Ptolemy's chart will tell which planet is where in what part of the year. Which planet is where on what part of the year. So empirically, Ptolemy was very correct. Today we call it absolutely stupid idea. So you realize in science, some of the greatest scientists which we take them to be trivial today were the greatest mind who ever walked, thought, and they were mad people who spent their lifetime. Then there was another astronomer called Kepler. He was basically a spiritual man, as Mr. Ramkumar would call him, thinking about God. And he says, God is such a nice person. He should always create a universe which will be harmonious. Harmony of the universe. If the planets are moving, there must be some harmony there. They should be moving in exact circles only, because circle is a very harmonious figure. Then between them, the distances should be on the scale of music. See, what is music? The first time the Greeks were able to convert music into mathematics. The length of the string, how it matched with various octaves and all that. So Kepler made wild guesses with this and came up with the best explanation about the movement of planets, all three laws of Kepler. 100% correct for all wrong reasons. And that is science. But he was open to discussion. One thing good about Newton, Kepler, Ptolemy, all were. There was nothing secret. The data was there, their method was there. You can criticize it, you can accept it, you can throw it into garbage. If it worked, people accepted it. If it didn't work, people didn't accept it. But there was nothing personal about it. There was no imposing my thought on you. Because all felt like Newton, these are all tentative, guesses, hypotheses. We are trying to reach the truth. We may be nearer to the truth, but the truth still evades us. And that is one of the very, very hallmark of a scientific thinking. Then came the era of grand success of science, starting with a very humble machine called the steam engine. You know, the person who built the first steam engine had no idea about thermodynamics or the science of the engine. You may not believe Wright brothers, who flew the first aircraft, didn't know anything about the science of flying. Like a child flying a kite, he may not know the science of the kite. But he knows he can copy it, he can try some, it will fall down, then he will make some other thing, he will tie a string. By hit and trial, he will get the best solution because hundreds of children are playing, hundreds of children are flying. So that is how empirical methods work. They are as scientific as anyone else. Hit and trial. Till 1972, you'll be shocked to know, and I'm authority because my son took a class in IIT, a very strange class for professors of IIT, how aeroplanes fly. We all take it for granted, but we knew that how aeroplanes fly. It's like a car driver knowing very well how the car works. Sir, very simple. 4 wheel irukku, or steering irukku, or key irukku. Key irukku, grrr sound varum. Either push panninga, either put panninga. And you know what brilliant, he understands the car. Many people say, my child is very bright, he can run the TV. Yes sir, everybody said, grrr panwari, all running. He knows about TV, everything. And that is the level of science. Not only I'm talking about fools like me, but some of the best scientists I've come across, they are talking like ghurr, ghurr, ghurr. That's all. When you go deeper into it, they hardly understand. And I'm coming to that aspect of science, which is called. So for nearly 200 years, the progress of science was so good, material terms. And in that, I'll make a small break to show something about Industrial Revolution, how very, very trivial things became the hero of the world. When this came, steam engine, what is required to run the steam engine? Coal. Where do you get coal? In the mines. And when there are lakhs and millions of steam engine all over the place running, you required million tons of coal to run it. How do you get it? You go inside the mine, you start deeping. And then came a big problem. As you go deeper into the mines of coal, along with coal, certain gases were trapped in, called coal gas. And that time we didn't have electricity, no bulb, nothing. We had to take a candle or a lamp, oil lamp or a candle in a lamp and go inside. And suddenly the gas will come and touch and everything goes away. Workers were not ready to go into the mines. What do? More insurance, more premiums. But there was a point that suddenly it became very difficult to go for mining of coal. Surface coal is available. How do you do? Like today we do for petroleum. That was the time for coal. And then came a very famous scientist who was knighted, became a hero. His invention was sold out for nearly, for today's term will be about $2 million or $10 million or something like that. And I brought his equipment to show it to you. You'll be very happy to see it. And it's very interesting. This is the lamp, that's all. He removed the glass chimney and put a copper mesh as chimney. If you take it in a whole room full of gas, explosive gas, take this, the gas will enter inside. You can see the gas burning inside. I do this experiment for classroom, I take the cigarette lighters, I have got a lot of gas. I can throw the gas on it. The gas will go inside and burn, but the fire will not come. And it became such a success. It was called Davy's safety lamp. It was a wrong name given. It should have been called Davy's warning lamp because this lamp caused a lot of explosions. Those who understood the science of this lamp were lucky. Those who thought, oh, this is a wonder lamp, you can walk in the gas anywhere you like. They walked. First minute, all happy. Second minute, all happy. Third minute, all happy. The gas was burning inside, nothing coming out. And suddenly, fourth minute, dumb, everything was done. And then the science was done. That is the difference. The technology was there. People use it, but they don't understand. Science was simple. To burn anything, a candle or a matchstick, what are 4 ingredients? Oxygen, fuel, chain reaction, and ignition temperature. So when the gas goes inside, it starts burning, the fire spreads out. As it touches a copper mesh, it cools down. The copper is a very good conductor of heat. Ignition temperature drops, nothing comes out. Very simple. But till you understood that, till you did not understand, it was empirical methods which led to it. And this was sold for $2 million. Today also, I was talking to Mr. Ramkumar. We have got primarily 3 colors, na? R, Y. In science also, there are primarily few things only. Very, very few things. But if you take RYB, red, yellow and blue, and in different proportion keep mixing, you may get a million hues. But basic is same, RYB. You may get a million hues. And you wonder at, oh, what the world is so, but somebody says, sir, the world is not that clear, it's only RYB. In science also is like that only. If you look at the world, there are only 4 or 5 things which are working. One thing is called the forces. One force is gravity. Other force is electromagnetic, which is all around us. And 2 forces we don't see daily, only the atomic physicists and nuclear physicists see it, called the weak nuclear forces and strong nuclear force. That's all. But science has got some funny explanation. Sorry. This bad smell of the candle is very. So that is coming to that. So I started when I was studying where I got disappointed with science and where I got disappointed with people who are pursuing science. Lot of people in the name of science, what I call pursue pseudoscience. Without understanding any, oh sir, AI is going to replace your mind. What is AI, sir? Sir, artificial intelligence, what is intelligence? Why are you asking? You don't know intelligence? No, no, sir. First I should know intelligence, then only I can say it is artificial or real. We have no definition of intelligence with us, and we talk of artificial intelligence. So this sort of where I was there, I was telling something initially before he came. My thought. What is that? It was warning lamps. So when you go inside, why it burst? As the gas burnt and burnt inside, the wire mesh itself became very hot and reached the ignition temperature. So it lighted everything else. So those who knew the science, they will use it as a warning lamp. You go inside, there's a fire burning inside, oh, gas is there, let's get out. And those who didn't understand the science and got caught, as we know today, we give our children all our cell phones, lot of knowledge is there. No, sir, there is a lot of misinformation, there is a lot of disinformation, there is a lot of dirt there. And your child cannot distinguish what is dirt and what is knowledge. So merely because he keeps fiddling with your cell phone day and night, you think he is becoming more knowledgeable, is a doubtful world. So that's how science progressed, and suddenly everything strange started occurring. People said, why these all spiritual people? See the progress we have made. We can go to the moon. We have got such powerful weapons to destroy everything. We virtually understand everything. And we went down further to understand. From molecules we came to atoms, and atoms were explained by, like solar system, there is a nucleus with the electron going around. And that was a time of real, this spiritual thing is all bunkam. It's all matter. Look at your body. What is your hand made of? All flesh, you can analyze it. Take your skin, cut it out, see it under a microscope. You will see these parts. What are you talking about spiritual? Where is the spirit? Nobody can. You can't pinpoint where is the spirit. But the matter can be shown to you. And there was a huge, what you call, an era which is still very, very prevalent, called materialism. What is there is all matter. And all this talk of spirit inside the matter. And there was one great scientist by name Descartes. He was a physicist, very good scientist, but he said probably there are two aspects in the world. One is matter, and one is maybe spirit or something. And it's like, my body is matter, but that ghost is somewhere inside me. And there was always an attempt to exorcise the ghost out by other scientists. No, there is no ghost. We are all physical beings and matter. And as it progressed, the first revolution came in 1905 when Albert Einstein gave a very stupid idea called theory of relativity. Relativity theory looks very simple, innocuous. It just says the velocity of light is constant in all reference frame. One. Very simple statement. And all physical phenomena are same in different inertial frames. But you can't distinguish by conducting one experiment in one frame and another frame. If they're moving at constant velocity to each other, you can't distinguish. So then came one of the biggest solution. There was a big fight, you remember, initially. The universe was Earth-centric. Earth is the center. Copernicus gave, no, sun-centric. Galileo virtually staked his life. And what is the today's stand? So it is a matter of your convenience. Whether Earth-centric, you can have a mathematical structure which will explain everything and put everything in the right position by taking the Earth as a center. You can take the sun as a center, slightly mathematically more simple. But who is moving and who is stationary, nobody knows. Whether sun is moving or earth is moving, nobody knows. Let us not. That was So many people thought a cranky man would have given this. It doesn't matter anyway whether the sun moves or earth moves till I get my bread and butter, my industry is doing well. And that well is coming not from Einstein's theory. Because Einstein's theory has no applicability. So if it's not applicability, it's good to be knowing about it, but no point talking much about it. Then second aspect came was what is called the quantum mechanics. When they examined matter further, I hope examined matter, quantum mechanics came very strange things happening. When they went on looking at the matter closely, suddenly the matter disappeared. Very strange phenomena started occurring. And one of the most popular experiments, which I will take 1 minute to explain, which has been done in every big lab day and night, and it has no answers. It is caused what you call the wave-particle duality, where the particle is what you observe, but it behaves in a manner as if it is a wave not of matter, but wave of thought, probability. Very strange, you can't make sense out of it. And the experiment is very simple. Anybody can do it. And I'll show the experiment of it. Take a minute to show it. Kindly. It's a simple experiment. They have a gun which throws electrons. And they have got a screen. And it has got two openings. And there is a screen, photoelectric effect, where it receives the electron which comes from this side and hits the screen. Very simple setup. What they found, when you are bombarding it with electrons, we normally expect maximum electrons to come in front of the one hole, and slowly peter off. Similarly, on the second hole, you will have more electrons coming there. But to their utter astonishment, when they find they will have electrons here, no electrons in between, again electrons, no electrons, like this, bands. And sometimes right in front of the hole there is an empty band. Why should they be empty here? And no answers. If you close one hole, again you get a strange phenomena. You will get electrons in front of this hole, then gap, then again, then gap, then again. A strange pattern. Then they said maybe the electrons are hitting each other and creating this gap. So they lowered the number of electrons and they brought it down to 1 electron at a time. So it is being fired one at a time. And after 1 day of recording, they found the same pattern. As if what the conclusions were very strange. One thing can be at two places one given time. And recently you got the Nobel Prize to a person, 2022, quantum entanglement. Two particles come out from the same source. They are by help of magnets separated left and right. They fly away from each other for millions of miles or 5 miles or 500 meters. You do something to one particle, the other gets affected. They may be anywhere in the universe. Once entangled, always entangled. Then they started thinking of Einstein, because Einstein said this space, time, these are mental concepts. And physics has what is the definition of matter in physics? Do you know? Matter, it occupies, what is that which occupies space? Res extensa. What is space? The distance between two matter. It is like saying, Mr. Ramkumar, where do you live? In front of Mr. Jaiswal's house. Where is Mr. Jaiswal's house? In front of my house. Where are both? Opposite each other. How knowledgeable you become about our address, you can understand. Same thing happens with electromagnetism. What is the electric field? Which affects the electric charge. What is the electric charge? Which produces the electric field. It's a circular argument. So there are two aspects of science which you should be clear. One thing what baffles you. various gadgets. Like your color hues, there are so many gadgets today. RYB, but hues are many. Science is little, oh, gadgets are many. And you can play around with it, and it's good. It sometimes brings you money, sometimes brings you fun, and it depends how you use it. Aeroplane, somebody told me, sir, it's a great achievement of mankind to have planes. We can reach from here to Mecca. No, it's not a great achievement, it's a bad achievement. When your city gets bombed, then you curse the aeroplane. Hiroshima, Nagasaki would not have occurred because of aeroplane. You see the type of bombing which is occurring all over the world, you'll forget. If 5 million people benefit by aeroplane, there will be 50,000 people who are getting killed because of aeroplane. So, technology per se and science per se doesn't talk of values. It doesn't touch values. Science even doesn't know about colors. If you ask a physicist what is red, he says, don't talk about red, blue. These are mental images, subjective things. I know frequency. No values, nothing red, nothing blue, colorless, tasteless, touchless, nothing. Then what it is? Imagine, close your eyes for a while, imagine a world which is colorless, soundless, touchless, tasteless, whatever. What sort of world you will have? And that is what his science is. Then came the spiritualists. Oh, we told you long back, we are the people who know what is spirituality. Because science got stuck at one point, what is called consciousness. After all, who is seeing everything? Who is doing it? What is that consciousness? Where does it reside? The materials say consciousness is here in your head. You open the skull, go by atom to see where is that consciousness. Then you say, no, you can't find out. Like it is the complexity of the human brain which produces an emerging quality called consciousness. Consciousness is an emergent property of complexity of the brain. I don't think any one of you understand, nor I understand what this means. But great scientists, pseudoscientists make this statement, and and they have got bestseller books. So we get caught into it, what to do? Where do I go? Whom do I consider a scientist? Whom I consider? I know only one answer. Till you have got this madness of understanding truth, ready for a debate, listening to others, getting criticized, open to it. I am right, but I may be wrong also. Till that feeling in knowledge is there, you are pursuing the path of science. And once you say, no, I know what is God. I'll tell you, I'll take you to Him. I follow my path. Follow this yoga. Do this way. Breathe through your, instead of breathing through your nose, breathe through your toe. You'll be wondering, how can I breathe through my toe? Imagine breathing through your toe. And you imagine breathing through your toe, and then they'll say, no, you didn't imagine properly. Many times I got this answer, sir, you have to have faith to understand this. Sir, if I don't prove right, you will say you didn't have faith. These are called unprovable methodology. You will see God if you have faith. If I don't see God, sir, you don't have faith. You can't prove right. And there was another reason. There was a very famous bishop called Berkeley. He has given one of the best answer for logic and philosophy. He made one statement, only I exist and nothing else. Everything else is a creation of my mind. Logically, you cannot disprove it. Berkeley gave birth to his father, gave birth to his mother, gave birth to his grandfather, everything, because he is creating everything. But logically, it's a very close monism. So logic alone doesn't teach you anything. Logic starts with an axiom, which has no reason why it is like that. Once you accept the axiom, you can build on it logic. But starting point is, I won't say illogical, but it is like science has a matter of faith. We all believe there is an order in the universe, and I as a scientist will find it out. What makes you believe that there is an order in the universe? It's a matter of faith. So this is how, so over the years when I studied science and studied various empirical methods on rebirth, on near-death experience, I have spent Instead of concentrating on my police work, all the time I was reading all this. Because police was very boring. So, but there were a lot of empirical data to suggest there's something more than my body. But what is that more? I do not know. You can experience, you can feel at a while, but you try to grasp it like matter. You can feel, yeah, this is matter. But more as a scientist, the moment you try to grasp it, it vanishes into thin air. The cloud looks so good, and angels used to live on the cloud because from a distance as a child I knew that, oh, there's a place where all the angels can live. But the moment you go near the cloud, it all disappears, nothing. Same happens. The only relieving factor for me from pseudoscience and science when I meet a person, not only about the knowledge, but his openness, his ability to see and doubt things which he knows. And that is what normally to me distinguishes a scientist from a pseudoscientist. And that's what I was talking about. People talk about, I heard the sir's lecture that day on distant healing. I was much impressed because he has a lot of empirical data. But he was very good to answer me once. I said, sir, is it your method treating or grace? And sir was kind enough to tell me, it's grace. Am I right, sir? Then I am speechless. I can't argue. This is a matter of experience. Whether I can't call it a pseudoscience or science, anything. It's an experience of a different people of a different kind. So that is an entirely different. So all the time I'm trying to influence the dogma, fanaticism. I am right. Proving it. And by play of language, you can prove a dog to be a cat and cat to be a dog. That is always goes on. And depending on your listener. There are a lot of gullible people. If you use a hard language, difficult language, they believe it because they didn't understand it. Why do you take the believe in him? Sir, ஒரு வார்த்தை ஃபாலோ பண்ண முடியாது, அதுக்காக நல்லா இருக்கு. Most of the time when I go for such talks and spiritual talks and all that, I don't follow a word of it. But it's so smooth and nice, and the person giving the lecture is so pleasant, so happy and smiling that you feel like believing him. So that is what I'm sorry, I've extended by 2 more minutes. Thank you very much. No, feel free. These are all trivial talk.
To ask you a question. Have you in your own experience, sir, have you seen the slow meeting of science and spirituality somewhere?
No, sir. Meeting of science and spiritual I've seen among some of the good scientists. For example, a very famous scientist you may have heard his name called Schrödinger. Another scientist, Eddington. They made it very because they came from the materialistic background, which denied the existence of spirit. They said, as far as I know, today the science which I understand neither supports nor denies. That means, and they were the people who had what they term as a mystical experience. And they often refer, but again they say it's only an experience. Beyond words, can't be talked about. Because when you talk, you are speaking in a language. Language means something which is common to all. Otherwise language will not be there. I have a friend who has a habit of coining words. And he will coin a word. So one day he told me, sir, I've got the answer of every problem you are facing. What is that? Equilibrium thinking. What is that? Sir, equilibrium thinking. Can I find the meaning in the dictionary somewhere? Explain. No, sir, it's a word coined by me. What do you do? Then you say, either you get angry and say, get lost, or say, thank you very much, I understand that. Because you don't want to make an enemy out of him by making fun of him or something. But this is harm, please.
In your talk, I was able to understand that there is truth, and the truth need not be understood. Am I getting it right? I don't know.
That's a very good thing you told.
What I was able to get it is that there is a truth, right? And there is a possibility that that truth
That's okay.
is not
Understood.
understood. Now, that looks, the other part of spiritualism, where there is no scientific explanation, but there is truth there.
No, I'm talking the same thing you're telling. Science also, it starts with a faith that there is a truth. That's why I'm a scientist. I'm trying to get the truth. I may be nearer to the truth, but what is the truth, I do not know. Even in field of science, if you ask any scientist, have you seen an electron? He says, I don't know, sir. I only know what electron does. I don't know what electron is. It passes through in a gas chamber, it produces certain lines. It hits a photographic plate, it produces a dot. But what it is, I do not know. Then you go into quantum mechanics, he says, sir, it is not. Then you go to the spiritual line that which says, he is not. Often you hear this, the word about Brahman. He is, or whatever it is not. I do not know because the language restricts me to making understand. Because is and not is normally used for material things. And I'm trying to use, like using color as explaining to a blind man. Now you can beat your head as much as you like. But you can't explain color because color is an experience which we take for granted that people who have eyes share it. So that is a sort of issue. It's a very frustrating.
Throw some light on the field. Finally, we step to the field.
Sir,
World
field.
field.
Very interesting thing you asked. The world of field. Electromagnetic field, I'll come to that. There's a very famous physicist called Mermin, David Mermin. He said, electromagnetic field is a vector in Hamiltonian space. What it means? They are mere mathematical constructs and nothing else. In an antenna, something is happening. It is causing another antenna to respond to it. To connect them, we have created a mathematical construct like gravity created by Newton. We have created another construct called electromagnetic field. Is electromagnetic field real? Non-real? Heavy is and is not. Then you may say, where have you left us? As baffled as I am. So this is a question which comes because of our sense experiences. We want something solid to catch on. But if you take the quantum mechanical explanation of this table on which so many things are kept, according to quantum mechanics, 99.9% of this table is empty. 99.9% is empty. And my body is equally empty. So empty person sitting on an empty chair, does it make a sense? It doesn't make sense. But quantum mechanics says this is what you are. An empty person on an empty chair. An empty man speaking to an empty audience.
Country from emptiness, the role of silence.
Oh, those are, because silence again is a very strange phenomena. Silence only is earthly phenomena because we connect silence to sound. And science has no place for sound because we all
Emptiness.
So those are again playing on words. We can keep playing with words. Emptiness, silence, color, but I do not know. But that is where I stop. Only thing which I wanted to communicate the lecture, that whatever you learn, use, experience, put certain what I call modesty and humility in it. You may be right, you may be totally wrong. So that humility will make you less conflict in life. Because half the conflict in life is because of I am right, you are right, I am right, you are right. Most of the conflict. So that itself is a very, very good value system. That is all. Yes, ma'am?
The person is understanding something, is understanding that at a certain perception level. So that as perception level changes, understanding also changes.
Yes, obviously.
So that applies to everyone, not only one particular person. It applies to any scientist or a spiritual seeker or any.
What you say, that is what they call, you talk about perception. Perception is a less term. They say levels of consciousness differ.
That both are different.
So perception is normally used for sense perception.
No, it is beyond also.
That is what I am saying. That's why the word used for that is often different levels of consciousness. And Aurobindo, the great thinker, has always focused on this. So that is entirely different. That's why they say if scientists or anybody, a child, have got different levels of perception.
So if he reaches the absolute highest level of whatever the way of looking at or understanding or experiencing stuff, that is the absolute truth, that is the ultimate level.
So my question is, you have a belief, which I am very happy you have, that there is some highest level. This is the faith you are having, a leap of faith. Yes, my consciousness is at this level, there must be some higher level, and there must be a highest level. Well, wonderful to believe in that. If you ask me, I say I am quiet about it. Neither I can say no, nor I can say yes. The only thing which I find which makes science and spirituality very tolerable, where this concept of not understanding, being humble about it, being modest about it.
That itself is that it comes into that part you are saying.
So that itself will be slightly make the society and our pursuit of knowledge a bit more pleasant affair. Often it is when I try to convert people to my belief, through propaganda, through violence, through force, so many methods are there. That should be tell me.
Just sharing a comic quote from my own lecture on Theosophy and Science in 2016. And here is the picture. When did ignorance become a point of view in bridging the gap between science and spirituality? That's one. And then I have one more, which is from Carl Sagan. This is Carl Sagan quoting him. Science is a way of thinking much more than it is a body of knowledge. If you wish to make an apple pie from the scratch, you must first invent the universe. We live in a society exquisitely dependent on science and technology, in which hardly anyone knows anything about science and technology.
Again, I told you there are brilliant people, whether Carl Sagan, Schrödinger,
And of course you have Richard Feynman, you have just stages of science.
Richard Feynman, Eddington.
I have all the quotes here.
And of course, endless quotes will be there.
All well done, well written.
Very well. They are very, I should say, very good at it. Like Shakespeare. Shakespeare is wonderful because he can write comparisons and similes and metaphors in such a fashion that you wonder at it. Not the story alone, but the language. So people have this. But again, it appeals to someone, and half the people like it because they don't understand it. So that is it. Anyway, thank you very much.
People make a living by talking about science and doing science and technology and all that. Some people make a living by talking about pseudoscience and then taking it forward, like so many things like astrology or anything for that matter. So the best thing is just to keep it open-ended and be like Mr. Anoop Jaiswal, who is absolutely, what should I say, he doesn't take sides at all in anything. So as a token of appreciation for his wonderful talk, I think which has made us all think, I think this is a token of appreciation. I would like to request Mr. R. M. Ramaswamy to give this token of Mr. Anoop Jaiswal told me many years back, he told me a small story about King Solomon. King Solomon is a very good king, was a very good king, and God once appeared in his dream and asked, "What do you want?" And Solomon, in all his humility, said, "I want the power of wisdom." Mr. Anoop Jaiswal has got that. Thank you.
According to the scriptures, "Oh God, give me an understanding heart." So God said, "You have not asked for kingdom, you have not asked for 100 sons, you have not asked for immortality. Asking for it. So God said, I'll give you everything else for you to have an understanding heart."